Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served. For the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving. A country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, having received any message from His Excellency the President, and I just want to inform members that after the presentation of the budget statement, we want to have an emergency meeting of the Committee on Standing Orders of the House. There's a need for us to look at it. And then tomorrow, the Committee on Selection will meet. There's a need for us to re-engineer the leadership of some of the committees so that we can handle the budget properly within the few weeks after our decision. This is just an announcement to members because the notice that is required has not been given. That's why I'm taking this opportunity to inform you. So we move to item 4, correction of votes and proceedings and official report. We will start with the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 14th November 2024. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Yes, the honorable member in smoke.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I was present yesterday in the chamber, but I've been much absent. That's number 20.
Is that Honorable Williams Kufour Dati?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Honorable members, table office, please take note of that and do the proper thing. Yes, the gentleman at the back. The back.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable Kuma for Kintamponov. Joseph Kwame Kuma for Kintamponov. Mr. Speaker, page 8. items 4, 22, and 33 were present yesterday in the chamber, but they have been marked absent. Dr. Mahoney, I'm sure his attention has not come to that.
Item 4, item
page 8, items 4, 22, and 33. Dr. Mahoney is here. Yesterday we were together here. The Zidin and all, they have all been marked absent. Maybe I stand for correction. Thank you.
I think the honorable members are available today. Can you confirm that you were here yesterday? Honorable Eric Affle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on page 8,
honorable member,
I've been marked absent. I was here yesterday.
that is the issue I just raised. You are confirming that you were here.
I was here yesterday, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Dr. Nawani McCurt. Were you here yesterday?
Yes, Speaker, I was here.
Honorable Zid, Bid, and what Azuma, were you here yesterday?
You were here. I saw you.
Yes.
Outside.
Mr. Speaker, I was not here on Tuesday, but I was here yesterday. Tuesday, I was not here.
Yesterday was Tuesday.
Monday, sorry. I was here yesterday, not on Monday. Yesterday, I was here, Mr. Speaker.
Good. End of story. What does Monday go to do?
Please, honorable members, usually take some look at the votes and proceedings and assist the House to get it properly corrected. Table office kindly take note and make the necessary correction. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Is it page 10 or 11? 11. Yes, honorable.
I'm grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the motion at page 11, number 12, the Cape Town Agreement, it's not been captured in full. It should read the Cape Town Agreement to enhance fishing safety, 2012. The Cape Town Agreement to enhance fishing safety. So if it can be amended accordingly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Table office, kindly take note. Page 12. Yes, please.
Well, Right Honourable is consequential at item 13.2 at page 12.
Table office, take note. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
Please, Right Honourable Speaker, item numbered 3IV at page 50. Mr. Eric Tete Addison, IV. The position Director, Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ministry of Local Government, Monitoring, has been spelled wrongly. We have monitory, MONITORY, instead of TORI.
Yes, Honorable Member, you are correct. Table office kindly capture the correct spelling of monitoring. Page 16. Page 17. Honorable members, may you resume your seat. Page 17. Page 18. Page 19. Page 20. Page 21. Page 22. Honorable members, the votes and proceedings of the 10th sitting held on Tuesday, 14th November 2023, as corrected, are adopted as a true record of proceedings. We now move to the official report. I have a copy of the official report of Tuesday, 31st October 2023. Any corrections? Honorable members, yes.
I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at column 19, paragraph 2, the paragraph has to be re-looked at. The limited registration that we had came with its own challenges. The fourth line, and not had come. So that paragraph will have to be cleaned up, Mr. Speaker. And also, Mr. Speaker, your...
Sorry, I didn't get that. Paragraph 2 says, Mr. Speaker, before I proceed, is that paragraph?
Column 19, the second paragraph.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, before I proceed, I think it's important to respond to the fact that, yes, the limited registration that we had came with its own challenges.
Yes. So instead of come, you are saying we should rather capture came.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, go on.
And Mr. Speaker, under the formal communication from you at column 32, you, on the VRA spillage, you emphasized that there will be a parliamentary probe. You were much stronger than has been captured here at column 32. So if the table office could pay attention to the audio, what you actually said at column 32, because Mr. Speaker, you were very emphatic. You said that there will be a probe on the VRA-induced spillage, but that has not been captured accurately, as you stated on that day. So it's important that they look at it.
You're talking about column 32.
Yes, please.
Okay. Table office, kindly refer it back to the official reports for them to listen to the voice and capture the proper rendition. Thank you so much. In view of that, we will not adopt this report until it's corrected. Yes, honorable member.
Most grateful, Mr. Speaker. In column 81, paragraph 3, it indicates
With your permission, I read. VRA could have come to Ada to open up the estuary so that the water flow to the sea would have been smooth. That's because the concern here is that water and flow should be separate, but it's presented as if water flow is a word on its own. So there ought to be a space between water and flow. Grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, table office, take note. Honorable members, as I stated earlier on, in view of the issues that have been raised by members, we will not adopt this official report until the necessary corrections are made. Particularly the second one raised by Honorable Ablakwa, they will have to listen to the voice and to know what was said to get the proper rendition. So we will defer the adoption of this official report until that is done. I so direct. Honorable members, we now move to item 5, statements. We have, as at yesterday, 2 statements. One very important tribute to the House as a result of the loss of our dear former First Lady. So, Honorable Member, please, this is the time for you to make the statement. Lead the House to pay a befitting tribute to Mother Teresa.
I'm thankful for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to make a statement to pay tribute to Mrs. Teresa Kufour. Mr. Speaker, motherhood is a state of caring for all your children as a mother, regardless of their diversity in character and behavior. This our game of politics has always been a treacherous, foul play and positivity adventure before birth of all of us. Your ability to find your way through its ups and downs would have to take a person with good insight and counsel. Mrs. Teresa Kufour had all these virtues which impacted young politicians in the early 90s. Mrs. Teresa Kufour was a mother figure to me and a lot more politicians in this country. Her wise counsel, patience, and kind-hearted has played a significant role in making some of us who we are today. She played in style the role of motherhood, both outside and inside politics. Mr. Speaker, one fond memory I recollect about her occurred in 1995, when we, Mr. George Bra, former Sweeping Constituency Secretary, Nana Wedufofie, former Bantuma Constituency Secretary, all of pleasant memory, and Albert from Menchia Constituency, attended a workshop in Accra when it's a very odd time, that is around 11:30 p.m. We were stranded in finding accommodation. We called and she readily consented to accommodate us for the period and hosted us with an impressive stay at her residence. During our stay, she fed us breakfast and gave us a resounding warmth. Mama Tess, as I used to call her, was always cheerful and putting up a wonderful smile which attracted many people closer to her. This reminds me of another memory in 1998 when the party went for primaries in Sunyani and eventually Kufour emerged as the flag bearer for the second time. I led a convoy with my motorbike through to Apejefie in Kumasi, which earned me the name Kufour's Motor Rider. She called upon her arrival and appreciated my exuberance and encouraged me to keep working hard and assured that it will pay one day. Thankfully, it has. She was hardworking and very supportive of anything that would bring change and ensure great outcome. Mr. Speaker, she played a pivotal role throughout the political career of President John Kufour and ensured unity among the party's women's wing and its rank and file. She is a rare definition of to every successful woman, there is a woman. To every successful man, there is a woman. She mastered courage and helped President Kufour throughout his political career. As we celebrate President Kufour as one of the presidents under the Fourth Republic, let us first acknowledge the wise and good counsel of Mama Tess for her contribution and hard work at the time. Mr. Speaker, it is a very sad moment for me, and as I reflect on the past, I am glad her path and I crossed because it changed my life for the better. May her soul rest in perfect peace. I'm very grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Yes, Deputy Whip, are you, Honorable Member for Tamale South?
Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity and to recognize the maker of the statement for drawing the House attention to the passing of a significant person in our governance structure of former First Lady of the Republic of Ghana, who supported President J. Kufour to steer the affairs of state, albeit not to perfection. But at least, Mr. Speaker, the late Teresa Kufour was a sobering influence on President Kufour. Mr. Speaker, I want to recognize her dedication to free, compulsory, universal basic education. At a time when the country had launched to implement the constitutional requirement of expanding access to free, compulsory, universal basic education, she gave dedicated attention and supported that resources be made available for that purpose. Mr. Speaker, she was also particular about issues relating to maternal health care. Mr. Speaker, as the country mourns her, we only can convey hearty sympathies and condolences to President J. Kufour as he then was, and to the family, and may the soul rest in perfect peace. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member for Domi Kwabinya.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I thank you for the opportunity, and I commend the maker of the statement for making this statement on the floor of Parliament today. Mr. Speaker, indeed, Ghana has really lost a mother. Madame Teresa Kufour, the wife of ex-President J.A. Kufour, really served her country to the best of her ability. She impacted a lot of lives, especially the lives of young girls. She played a major role beside her husband. As the saying goes, behind every successful man, there's a woman. But I truly believe that indeed she was at the side of her husband and steered the affairs of this country to the best of their ability. If today she is no more with us, Mr. Speaker, we pray that the good Lord gives her eternal rest, eternal peace. Mr. Speaker, she will be forever remembered that she used her foundation to play in the lives of women, maternal care more especially, and girl-child education during the tenure of office of her husband as she was the First Lady of this country. Mr. Speaker, my heart deeply pours out to the family of the late Madam Teresa Kufour, Mama Tess. May all of them find in their hearts to lay our mother to rest, for she has served her beloved country, and we are all today very honored to have contributed to this statement on the floor. Mr. Speaker, I wish the family may her soul rest in perfect peace. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Member for the Great Constituency. Muntaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for acknowledging the greatness of my constituency. Mr. Speaker, let me also add my words to the tributes being given to a mother and a former stateswoman. Mr. Speaker, our mother, as we affectionately call her, Mother Teresa, was the First Lady of the second President of the Fourth Republic, His Excellency J. Kufour. She died on 1st October 2023 at the age of 87. Mr. Speaker, she was an exemplary woman. And why I say this is, Mr. Speaker, as many of us who attest to, as politicians, sometimes our spouses can make and unmake us in our various constituencies and whichever endeavor we find ourselves. There are instances where spouses of top politicians are involved in all manner of scandal and all manner of behavior. Mother Teresa was a very exceptionally quiet and reserved woman. And all of us will attest to the fact, throughout the tenure of 8 years as the First Lady of our country, she concentrated in issues that affect mothers, especially maternal issues, and how she was helping her husband to steer the state. And Mr. Speaker, one notable thing about our late mother was that by the time she became the First Lady of our country, even her youngest child was an adult. And you will have expected that with children whose father is the president of a country like Ghana, like we hear in many other countries, all manner of character and behavior and lavish life throughout the 8 years, not much could be said about the children. It tells you how she brought them up and how she was a gatekeeper in her own house to ensure that not much of scandals and tarnishing of image of the husband could come into the public domain. If you are a politician and you have children that are adults, you appreciate the role that she has played, because you are every day struggling to tame your children and let them understand that the public trust that has been reposed in you should not be abused or not be seen to be abused by them. And Mr. Speaker, knowing very well that her senior brother was also another renowned politician like J.H. Mensah from this house, you would have expected that her behavior would have been different, but no. She was very quiet, very reserved, and very supportive. If you ever visited the house, you wonder whether she has house help, because you see her making effort to serve visitors herself. These are very remarkable attributes, and if today we've lost her, I know she ran her race. To have died at 87, I would say she died young. she is gone home. Our prayer is that her soul will rest in peace, and we believe that the good Lord should comfort our father, President Kufour, for the lost, because I can imagine at this old age, where they are most of the time, the two of them alone in the house, to lose a partner could be a huge loss. And we pray that the good Lord will strengthen him. We wish her a restful, we wish her a good rest in the bosom of the Lord, and pray that our Father will also be strong in this most challenging time. So, Speaker, I want to commend the maker of the statement for drawing our attention. I also thank you for the opportunity to have contributed. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Patricia Appiaje, honorable members, I've been given a list, so I'm going to hide the list. Honorable Patricia Appiaje.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and I would like to commend the maker of the statement for giving us all the opportunity to eulogize our mother, Mrs. Teresa Kufour. Mr. Speaker, Sunday, the 1st of October 2023, marked the saddest day of my life because I was called in the afternoon that my mother, Mrs. Teresa Kufour, and I was informed that my mother, who was planning to take me to Azerbaijan, has passed on. Mr. Speaker, even though her passing on this earth is something I regret so much, I take pride in the fact that Mother Teresa passed on the day that we were celebrating her feast day. It tells you the nature of the woman that we are eulogizing today. Mother Teresa was a staunch Catholic and a Christian. His life was an exemplary life, and he sought to emulate that one that we, his children and his nieces and nephews, will ensure to emulate. Feast day, it is the feast day of the Christ, the Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus. And because he was one named after that saint, and he passed on that day, it is a clear indication of her faith in her Maker, the Lord Jesus Christ. She made sure her children and nieces, nephews, and grandchildren stayed rooted in the Catholic Church. And he also made sure their Christian values are well articulated by their behavior. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that our Mother Teresa left behind us is to have principles in life. I'm very much happy that I came into contact with a woman of that stature. Her political life, which spanned from 2000 to 2008, was one that all Ghanaians will attest to the fact that even though she was our First Lady, there was never a time that this woman stood up to interfere in the political activities of the country or even dictate anything that had to do with our political dispensation. Our lovely mother, Mother Teresa Kufour, was a pleasant, easygoing woman with a calm disposition. Her charm and elegance were exceptional. Her disposition was that of love, humility, and friendliness. One of the things which has already even been mentioned by one of our colleagues is the fact that he was so much concerned about the children and women in the society, to the extent that he was always seeking for the opportunity to support especially our health system. Mr. Speaker, Ms. Teresa Kufour was a pillar of support for our President, His Excellency John Ejekum Kufour. He traveled everywhere with him, and he was a pride of our country, Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I regret so much that 12 years of sickness and being in the house, laying sedentary in that way, it's something that I feel that our mother has really suffered, and we thank God that at this point in time, our Maker has called him to be with him. And I pray in Jesus' name that at this point in time, all Ghanaians should support us to lay her to rest, and we pray for her soul to rest in perfect peace. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
I'm grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, let me commend the maker of the eulogy, and to Speaker that the passing of the First Lady of the second President of the Fourth Republic, Her Excellency Teresa Kufour, is certainly a tragic news, a development which has left all of us saddened. Mr. Speaker, we all know that Ghana's 1992 Constitution does not fashion out specific roles for the spouses of our presidents. And so, over the period, spouses have defined their own role, and they have tried their best to chart a path that will contribute to the forward march of our country as they support their elected partners. And in that spirit, Mr. Speaker, it has to be objectively accepted that Her Excellency Teresa Kufour did walk the path of First Lady with dignity, with grace, with modesty. And it must be said, Mr. Speaker, that she was one who throughout her 8-year tenure as First Lady did not attract any negative publicity, any bad press, any scandal whatsoever. And that must be said too. She occupied that office very gracefully, very statesmanly, and she did attract a lot of admiration because of how she occupied that office. And Mr. Speaker, if anybody had doubts about the grace, the elegance, the modesty, and integrity with which Mama Teresa, as she is popularly called, occupied that office, you can tell from the outpouring since her passing. The country has been united in grief. Virtually every prominent Ghanaian from across the political divide have either gone to commiserate with the second president of the Fourth Republic, His Excellency John Ajikun Kufour, or have put out statements. And Mr. Speaker, your good self led this House to pay tribute. And across the political divide, the other surviving former president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, also led the NDC to pay tribute. And Mr. Speaker, you can tell all the other parties, CPP, PNC, you name them, everybody has been united in grief, and everybody has had very kind words to say. And Mr. Speaker, it's not the usual Ghanaian proverbial, we don't speak ill of the dead. We know when people are being diplomatic and being compelled because of Ghanaian traditions not to speak ill of the dead. But we also do know when a good person, the outpouring, the genuine affection, the genuine tributes and kind words, we know it when we hear it and when we see it. The Speaker should eternally be remembered for what she did for mother and child care in our country, what she did to enhance the FQ program, the school feeding program, and she will be remembered most importantly for how she did well to stay in the background, not to compete with her husband because she was conscious of the fact that she had not been elected. It is her husband who had been elected. And that really is a quality that has endeared her to many people. I use this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to extend deepest commiserations with the former President, His Excellency John Ajikun Kufour, their children, their grandchildren, and indeed, most importantly, those from the political party that she belonged, who I know, even though we are all in grief, they will be feeling the pain even more. The New Patriotic Party, and particularly her people in the Bono region. Mr. Speaker, we wish the family strength. May the good Lord grant them succor and grant them strength in this time of difficulty. And all of us shall be at the State House tomorrow to bid her farewell and to pay our last respect. We thank the good Lord for giving this country the First Lady, Mama Teresa, and for all she did for us in this Fourth Republic. I'm thankful to you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to eulogize the former First Lady. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, we are running out of time. The Minister for Finance, my attention has been drawn, is around for some time now. We need to proceed to that item very soon. But I will say allow the leadership, if they have something to say. If not, I may have to make a few comments. Honorable members, as for this one there, many more of you want to say a word. Okay. How many minutes each? 3 minutes. Honorable Comfordoyo Empire for Adan. I will come back. I'll recognize all of you. Don't worry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to the tribute made by our honorable colleague. Mr. Speaker, Madame Teresa Kufour is a rare definition of a mother. She is a definition of the Ufiasem. And she is a definition of peacemaker. Mr. Speaker, when she was the First Lady, the first thing she announced was, "Call me a mother." And you can really feel the mother in her. And she mothered the nation very well, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have a lot to learn from her as a former First Lady, a late former First Lady. At times, when you speak the truth, it's like you are opening up too much. But, Mr. Speaker, as women, we knew she went through a lot. And she became the First Lady, and she was cool with it. She never complained. She never interfered in governance issue. She never go around throwing jabs, and she never do anything that will affect her fellow woman or the nation. Mr. Speaker, she is a former First Lady. We never had any negative publication on her, and she's somebody we need to learn a lot, especially incoming First Ladies and First Ladies we've had. She was a former First Lady before she passed on, but you never hear her making unnecessary arguments. Mr. Speaker, we love her, but God loves us most. As current First Ladies and incoming First Ladies will learn from her. So simple woman. She was showing example of how we should live. She never do a lot of makeups when you see her in programs. Mr. Speaker, that's the fact and it's the truth. She has been there for everyone to learn from. We love her, but God loves us most. Upon all she's gone through, today she is resting with the makeup. Mr. Speaker, we thank God for her life.
Honorable Member,
and we thank the family for giving us such a wonderful First Lady.
3 minutes.
And her soul rests in perfect peace. No makeup First Lady. We love her. We love her so much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister for Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll first like to congratulate the maker of the speech, Honorable Member for Adjournment Just South, Honorable Andre. Mr. Speaker, for myself, Antiaba, as we popularly call their home, I saw her first as Antiaba. I lived with her as Antiaba. She was not only my grandmother, but she was also my mother. I lived with her in her house most of my university days when I came to Accra. She was a mother. She was a nurse by profession. And she became a stateswoman by association with President Kufour. She lived her life with elegance and grace. But at home, she was a disciplinarian. She was strict. She put us on the path of straightness. Mr. Speaker, for those of us who had the benefit of living in her house, you will never forget Auntie Abba for who she was. She spoke very little. You have to strain your ear to hear her, but you will do as she says. Action. Mr. Speaker, for me, the last time I shared a confined space with her was the unfortunate time we had COVID in the country. When myself, my father, President Kufour, and the former First Lady all went into the University of Ghana Medical Center suffering from COVID. It's a moment I'll never forget, that we have passed through times in this country, and during those times you need your family and your friends and your relations. She's brought up a lot of people, and sometimes as her own children. People didn't know the difference. Mr. Speaker, as we mourn the former First Lady, we should also remember that she was also a philanthropist, setting up the Mother and Child Foundation and personally visiting mothers and children all over the country. As a country, we haven't begun to recognize the role of partners in our lives. No president would have been a president enough without the First Lady that accompanied, or the lady that accompanied him or her. If a man succeeds, we have to first look for the partner of that man. She stood behind President Kufour through thick and thin. Even when the press was harassing President Kufour, she was quiet and determined to keep herself and her family in dignity. Very, very supportive wife, motherly, Mr. Speaker, and a Christian in the Christ, serving in the Christ the King Church, and a chorister. Even when she was the First Lady, she still sang in church. She lived a life worthy of following. The family invites everybody to mourn with us from this evening at the Requiem Mass in Christ the King Church, tomorrow at the forecourt of the State House, Saturday at the Heroes Park in Kumasi, and Sunday at the church service in Kumasi. Mr. Speaker, for some of us, the hole that has been left, I don't know how we are going to fill it. But the may good Lord receive not only her soul, but bless her. And let all of us learn from the humility the woman had. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Yao Buama.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make a few comments on the passing of this very great lady who served the country with her whole heart. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said about the former First Lady, and there are all good tributes and comments by colleagues. Mr. Speaker, those of us, like the Honorable Energy Minister rightly said, who had the opportunity to live with her, feed of her, and benefited from her counsel, will attest to the fact that the successes of President Kufour hinges on that beautiful lady who was very tough, who could check him, who could tell him straight in the face to do the right things for this country. Those, I believe, the ministers who work with President Kufour will know that he's a very tough man. Very, very difficult. Let me put it that way. But to be able to break him down, you needed somebody in the bedroom to at least direct affairs well. Mr. Speaker, From Wenchi to Keta, Ola, to Scotland, Takrade, London, to have gotten a lady to live with you for 62 years. It's admiration. It's a good advice to the ladies that we have. How many of our wives will not reprimand us in public when we go wayward, Mr. Speaker? But we never heard of such from the former First Lady. Mr. Speaker, we are all fallible human beings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. From her foundations, mother and child foundations, a devout Catholic, a strong chorister, Mr. Speaker, she was able to bring up 5 solid children. I believe most Ghanaians will not even remember the names of her children. Very well brought up, Mr. Speaker, and they're all doing very well. Mr. Speaker, it's a trying time. We've heard of the program. We are about to listen to the budget, but let me use this opportunity to wish President Kufour well, his children, Chief, Nanamas, Sir, Ajekum, Kofi, the grandchildren, many of them, the families from Elmina, Takrade, Ocheso in Kumasi, and Ewadumasi for the great loss. And we all participate in the funeral as elaborately mentioned by the Minister. Thank you very much, and I wish her a safe journey home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, please, I don't want us to overstretch this matter. I may allow the leaders, depending on whether they really wish to do it. I saw the deputy minority leader, and if the majority leader wants to say something, why not? Yes, please.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Let me commend the maker of the statement and associate myself with the very good things that have been said by our former First Lady. Mr. Speaker, this must be a very difficult time for the former President, His Excellency John Kufour. And we pray for him. We wish him God's strength at this time of grief. So, Speaker, it makes a lot of difference. And if you listen to all the descriptions, the only reason why, and one of the important reasons why President Kufour got to where he was because he had a life partner that was supportive and understanding and cheered him on to the presidency. That was really the case. And so it was really a life partner that really impacted him. He was a mother, as has been described, with 5 children, who impacted their lives and made a lot of difference in so many other lives. And I think that if we describe the impact he had on so many people, we will have the whole day here. As First Lady, as we all been told, she was so gracious and dedicated to her duties as First Lady. Her charity work across the country is well noted, and she did the work with grace and brought everybody together. And that is why you hear across the country the sense that this was a uniter, a mother indeed. So, Speaker, at this time of grief, we must extend our deepest condolence to the family. We're supposed to come to this world and dedicate ourselves to serving our God, which she did, serve our family and our country graciously. Madam Teresa Kufour indeed did all of that and excelled in all of that. And so at this time of grief, she has done good work, she has finished her race and deserves God's rest. May she rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Leader, and that is, I can see the Deputy Whip. I thought you were giving up for her to say a word on your behalf.
Mr. Speaker, I think this occasion
obliges me to say a few words. First, to commend the maker of the statement. The Speaker, the Majority Caucus learned with deep sorrow the sudden passing on of the former First Lady, Mrs. Teresa Kufour. The event occurred on the 1st of October 2023. Mrs. Teresa Kufour was the first Lady of an MPP administration in the Fourth Republic. The Speaker, Mrs. Kufour, as you have learned, and indeed came to know her, was motherly and a very laid-back First Lady, whose soft approach to the resolution of issues was most spectacular. She elected to be a leader from the rear, and her efforts were congruent to the outlook, style, and demeanor of her husband, former President Kufour, the gentle giant. The Speaker, Mrs. Kufour, made peace, kept peace, and guarded peace. She bore herself in simplicity and dignity, and her aura of grace resonated. A nurse by training, she nursed, nurtured, and provided comfort to her home, the party, and the country as a whole in her pursuit. Above all, she was a very committed Christian. The laws of Mrs. Kufour, a peace builder, at a time when the party is witnessing some turbulence, appears to rub salt in an open wound. We know she always wished the party the best and wishes well, and that is why we will soldier on amidst thunder to in solemnity quieting the storm. Mr. Speaker, Mrs. Kufour was steadfast in her prayers when times got tough. So, at this time, we can only wish her husband, former President Kufour, who himself is not in the best of shapes, very well, and pray to God that he's able to withstand the turbulence and the storms that are unfolding these days. Fare thee well, Mrs. Kufour, as you continue your prayers in eternity to the unity and stability of the MPP in particular and the nation as a whole. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Honorable members, we decided to eulogize our former First Lady as part of the celebration of her life. Our late First Lady, as we have been told, was a very humane, just, compassionate, democratic, and comfortable, I should say comforting woman, mother, and wife. She was actually a candidate for sisterhood in the Catholic Church. Her beauty, her aura, her elegance melted the rather very tough man we all refer to as gentle giant, our former first president, when they met on the dancing floor at London, a young man just called to the bar, meeting a beautiful nurse, really beautiful lady, a nurse on the dancing floor celebrating Ghana's Day of Independence. And so President Kufour was already on the way to success as a young lawyer. We all know him to be a very tough man, and I know that he's taking this very coolly in spite of the shock. Really, it's old school to say to be a successful man, you need a woman, or behind every successful man is a woman. That is old school. To be a successful man, it takes a woman. To be a successful man, it takes a woman. And there is a book on it. It's homework for you. Go and look for that book and read. It takes a woman. Honorable members, I have on your behalf filed a tribute as part of our celebration of her life. She actually acted as a bridge between me and His Excellency President Kufour for the 8 years that His Excellency was president of this country and I was the leader of the minority. It was not an easy period, but she managed to keep us together even though at distance. I never visited them at all, never. But we kept on working together and developed democracy. What you've met was not what was there. A lot of work went into it. That is why sometimes I'm sometimes tough on some of you because you are taking too many things for granted. It took blood, it took sweat, it took a lot of efforts to get us this far. And we have to thank the former First Lady for being part of that effort, part of that sacrifice. So, honorable members, she did not only join the chorus as a chorister of a church, she loved music and she really sang very well. I hope that sweet melodies will be sung as she departs the world to join her Maker. It's with this I want to employ all of you for us to stand up to give her a minute silence. May her soul and the soul of all the faithful rest in perfect peace. Amen. Honorable members, I suspend proceedings for 10 minutes and the Minister of Finance will be in for us to continue with business. Sitting suspended for 10 minutes.
balance of overall primary balance commitment of minus 5.7% of GDP, primary balance commitment basis of minus 5% of GDP, and gross international reserves, excluding oil funds, encumbered assets and pledged assets, sufficient to cover at least 0.8 months of imports of goods and services by end 2023. Mr. Speaker, provisional macroeconomic data on the performance of the economy for the periods Q1 to Q3 2023 demonstrated government's relentless commitment to keep us on the high road to recovery. The IMF rightly described Ghana's recent macroeconomic performance in the first review as compelling performance, and I quote, "Honorable members, may we wish to refer to the IMF's press release numbers PR 23/339, 6 October 2023 for this update. As I indicated during the 2023 Media Fiscal Policy Review, the prompt deployment of strong fiscal and monetary policy measures largely accounts for the continued macroeconomic stability and economic recovery. Growth in 2023 has been more resilient than earlier expected. Inflation has been on the decline faster than expected. The fiscal and external balances have improved, and the exchange rate has broadly stabilized." Mr. Speaker, government introduced the gold for oil policy in 2022. The policy, which leverages the Bank of Ghana's domestic gold purchase program, was intended to provide foreign exchange financing for the importation of petroleum products and help reduce demand for US dollars from the bulk import distribution and export companies, who would have otherwise gone to the market to source forex for the importation of petroleum products. Since then, Mr. Speaker, under the Gold for Reserves program, the Bank of Ghana has purchased a total of 17.89 tons, 1.14 billion US dollars of gold to boost its gold reserves. In addition, under the G40 program, Gold for Oil program, 23 cargoes, circa 800,000 metric tons of gasoline and gas oil equivalent to 30% of national consumption have so far been imported. The G40 program has significantly contributed to the stabilization of the CD-dollar exchange rate, 17 cedis to the dollar in November 2022 to 12 cedis to the dollar in November 2023, leading to a reduction in the ex-pump price of diesel from 23 cedis per litre, Mr. Speaker, to 12 cedis per litre today. Mr. Speaker, I'll now update the House on the performance of our macroeconomic indicators. Real GDP growth averaged 3.2% in the first half of 2023, compared to 2.9% in the same period in 2022, signaling a strong rebound. Robust growth in services averaged 6.3%, and agriculture also averaged 6.2%. Sectors were the key drivers. It is instructive to note that the average growth of 3.2% for the first two quarters of 2023 is higher than 2023 revised growth target of 1.5%. Price developments indicate that inflation is on a declining path in response to ongoing fiscal consolidation, appropriate tightening of monetary policy, and relative stability in the exchange rate. Headline inflation declined by over 16 percentage points from 34.1% in December 2022 to 38.1% in September 2023 and 35.2% as of October 2023. The cedi has stabilized against the US dollar since early 2023. With a year-to-date, Mr. Speaker, a year-to-date cumulative depreciation of 25% compared to 54% in 2022. Specifically, Mr. Speaker, the cedi has only depreciated by 6.4% on cumulative basis since February 2023, compared to, Mr. Speaker, 53.9% over the same period in 2022. Of the cedi largely reflects the positive impact from the restoration of economic activity, including robust economic growth, improvement in the current account position, improvement in forex liquidity following the IMF ECF inflows, Bank of Ghana's domestic gold purchase program, reduced speculative forex demand as market confidence rebounds. Gross international reserves as of September 2023 stood at 5 billion, 2.3 months import cover, compared to 6.3 billion, 2.7 months import cover at the end of 2022, but expecting only a 0.8 months at mid-year when we stood here to pronounce where we were heading to. We are yet, Mr. Speaker, to reflect IMF, World Bank, and Cocoa Bank indications of approximately $2 billion by year end. The current account turned positive at 1.1% of GDP at end June 2023, a monumental turnaround from the deficit of 2.1% of GDP at end December 2022. Likewise, the trade balance improved to a surplus of 2.6% of GDP as of end August 2023 from 0.7% of GDP surplus at end December 2022. Though interest rates moderated from December 2022 to the first quarter 2023, they picked up again as T-bills remain the key debt instrument in the debt market after the DDEP. For instance, the 91-day Treasury declined from 35.5% in December 2022 to 18.5% in March 2023, but increased to 29.8% as of Monday, 13th November 2023. The overall budget deficit on commitment basis as of end August 2023 was a deficit of 0% of GDP, outperforming the targeted deficit of 4.6% of GDP. The outturn largely reflects improvements in revenue mobilization and slower execution of expenditure. The corresponding primary balance on commitment basis was a deficit of 0.7% of GDP, also outperforming the target surplus of 0.9% of GDP. Public debt accumulation has slowed down significantly as government continued to consolidate its public finances, and also reflects the impact of the domestic debt exchange program and the ongoing external debt restructuring. Total public debt has declined from 73.1% of GDP at the end of 2022, Mr. Speaker, to 66.4% of GDP as at September 2023. The completion of external debt restructuring is expected to further improve Ghana's debt to GDP ratio. Mr. Speaker, the 2023 fiscal framework was revised during the 2023 mid-year fiscal policy review to reflect updated macro-fiscal developments and align with the fiscal adjustment path under the IMF-supported PCPEG path. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal performance for the first 8 months of the year using provisional data shows significant progress towards a stronger fiscal consolidation. More specifically, Mr. Speaker, total revenue and grants was 71.9 billion, 9.3%, 2.8% lower than the program target of 82.2 billion, 9.6% of GDP. Total expenditure commitment was 104.6 billion, 12.2% of GDP, 14.1% lower than the target of 121.8 billion, 14.2% of GDP. Primary expenditure commitment was 84.7 billion, 9.9% of GDP, 6.0% lower than the target of 90.1 billion, 10.5% of GDP. Primary balance commitment was a deficit of 5.5 billion, or 0.7% of GDP, compared to the target deficit of 7.9 billion, 0.9% of GDP. Overall fiscal balance commitment was a deficit of 25.4 billion, 3% of GDP, compared to target deficit of 39.6 billion, or 4.6% of GDP. And overall fiscal balance cash was a deficit of 26.1 billion, 3% of GDP, compared to the target deficit of 44.6 billion, 5.2% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, we are doing much better than predicted. Mr. Speaker, based on the overall macroeconomic objectives and the medium-term targets, the following macroeconomic targets are set for the 2024 fiscal year. Overall real GDP growth of at least 2.8%, non-oil real GDP growth of at least 2.1%, end period inflation rate of 5.0%, primary balance on commitment basis of a surplus of 0.5% of GDP, and gross international reserve to cover not less than 3 months of imports. Mr. Speaker, the 2024 and medium-term fiscal framework has been prepared in line with the objectives and policy priorities of a 3-year IMF-supported PCPEC program. The primary balance on commitment basis is the fiscal anchor we are using to assess our fiscal effort. Over the medium term, we plan to improve the primary balance commitment from a deficit of 4.3% of GDP in 2022 to deficit of 0.5% of GDP in 2023, a huge 3.9% adjustment. The primary balance is expected to improve further to a surplus at 0.5% of GDP in 2024 and 1.5% of GDP from 2025 onwards. Mr. Speaker, total revenue and grants is projected at 176.4 billion Ghana cedis, 16.8% of GDP, as we move towards our 18% target. And this is underpinned by permanent revenue measures, largely tax revenue measures, amounting to 0.9% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure is projected at 226.7 billion, 21.6% of GDP. This projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditure commitment basis compared to the outturn in 2022. This large decrease comes from the combination of fiscal consolidation efforts of 4.9 percentage points of GDP, reflecting an adjustment in revenue by 1.1 percentage point and primary expenditure by 3.9 percentage points of GDP. The potential interest rate savings from the ongoing external debt operation will further bolster public finance sustainability. Mr. Speaker, based on the estimates for total revenue and grants and total expenditure, including arrears clearance, the overall budget balance will be financed in a fiscal deficit of 61.9 billion, equivalent to 5.9% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance is a deficit of 5.9 billion, equivalent to 0.6% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Finance, I think through the Ghana Revenue Authority, as per Section 4 of the Ghana Revenue Authority Act 2009, introduced the Property Rate Reform Project. The objective was to develop a unified common platform capable of billing, collecting, and reporting property rates nationwide. Mr. Speaker, the initiative has encountered some challenges that's making it difficult for the relevant bodies, including the Metropolitan, Municipal, and District Assemblies, to have access to their share of the property rate collection on time. Mr. Speaker, to address these challenges, government is reviewing the overall structures and processes to determine the optimal way forward. In the interim, districts will resume collection as these challenges are resolved. Mr. Speaker, tax reliefs. Our approach to tax policy since 2017 was to give significant relief to the private sector until expenditure pressures from 2020 required a more aggressive approach. It is important to note that in the short term, fiscal sustainability requires that we improve our tax ratios significantly, other competitiveness will be eroded. As we all know, our country's 13% tax to GDP ratio is far below our peers. Our target is 18 to 20%, and we are on course for 16%, hoping to be achieved this year. In that regard, it is difficult to implement all the structural reforms and tax reliefs needed to immediately lower and or eliminate certain tax handles. However, I assure this august House that we have heard we believe in lower taxes as a government for industry, and we are working at this aggressively with the GRA and to be cemented with the Standing Committee of the Mutual Prosperity Dialogue. Mr. Speaker, further to the above, the following reliefs have been prioritized for implementation. To extend, Mr. Speaker, the zero rate of VAT on locally manufactured African prints for 2 more years. Mr. Speaker, to waive import duties on import of electric vehicles for public transportation for a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, to waive import duties on semi-knocked down and completely knocked down electric vehicles imported by registered EV assembly companies in Ghana for a period of 8 years. Mr. Speaker, to extend zero rate of VAT on locally assembled vehicles for 2 more years. Mr. Speaker, to zero rate VAT on locally produced sanitary pads. Mr. Speaker, to grant import duty waivers for raw materials for the local manufacture of sanitary pads. Mr. Speaker, to grant exemptions on the importation of agricultural machinery equipment and inputs and medical consumables, raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry. Mr. Speaker, a VAT flat rate of 5% to replace the 15% standard VAT rate on all commercial properties will be introduced to simplify administration. To address the negative externalities of plastic waste and pollution, government will review and expand the environmental excise duty to cover plastic packaging and industrial and vehicle emissions. Mr. Speaker, the Stamp Duty Act 2005, Act 689, has not been reviewed since its enactment in 2005. To realign the rates with current economic realities, government in 2024 will review the rates and fees for stamp duties. The bands subject to ad valorem taxes will be expanded, while the specific rates will be reviewed. Mr. Speaker, a simplified tax return will be introduced as a means of promoting voluntary compliance as part of the modified taxation scheme for individuals in the informal sector. This approach will make it easier for taxpayers to fulfill their tax obligations to the state. Mr. Speaker, the Tripartite Committee has concluded negotiations on the national daily minimum wage. The tax-free portion of the individual income tax rate will accordingly be adjusted to take care of the change. Government recognizes the constraints our medical personnel face in providing healthcare for our citizens. With the passage of the Exemptions Act, government will engage the Ghana Medical Association on waivers for importation of vehicles to ease the transportation burden on our doctors. The policy will enable them to deliver quality and timely healthcare. Mr. Speaker, as a government, we have always been committed to protecting the quality of life of our people. Total wages and salaries for workers has increased from 14.7 billion in 2016 to 37.5 billion. All workers were paid full wages and salary on time, even when revenues plummeted during the COVID-19 pandemic. In the difficult economic challenges, we paid 15% cost of living allowance for 6 months in 2022 to cushion the 949,000 workers, some 50% more than we had in 2016. Mr. Speaker, as reported in the 2023 Mid-Year Fiscal Policy Review of the 2023 Budget Statement Economic Policy of Government, a spending arrears clearance and prevention strategy was developed and approved by Cabinet for implementation. This is part of the measures to achieve the objective of bringing public finances back on a sustainable path through improved efficiency in public spending. To clear the system's stock of arrears, the Ghana Audit Service has begun the verification and validation of the arrears identified as at end December 2022 before payments are made. Mr. Speaker, to prevent the accumulation of new arrears, government has put in place the following measures to enhance commitment controls and prevent the accumulation of arrears. Alignment of the quarterly budget allotment of cash flows forecast and tighten the use of allotments as a control on the gift rather than the budget starting with the 2024 budget. Standardized contracts for public works to ensure flexibility in budget execution, review standard tender documents to include clauses that make the award of the contract, if not supported by gift-generated purchase order. All MDAs will be required to use GANEPs for all procurements to enhance transparency and efficiency in the procurement of good works consultancy, non-consultancy and asset disposal, improve budget execution practices by undertaking the following. Approval of MDAs commencement requires to be done within the first quarter of any fiscal year to allow MDAs sufficient time to complete procurement and payment processes before end of year. Enforcement of the use of gift for all transactions to prevent unbudgeted expenditure. Internal audit agency to ensure that public officers within covered entities adhere to the legal and regulatory principles governing public financial management in the discharge of their duties. All public officers, particularly principal spending officers of covered entities, will be held to the strict application of the specified section as specified in section 96 to 98 of the PFM Act. Mr. Speaker, the Public Financial Management Act 2016 Act 921 was passed to regulate the financial management of the public sector within a macroeconomic and fiscal framework. This law sets out stringent accounting, audit, and reporting requirements for public funds. As the first finance minister to oversee the implementation of this critical law, I am confident that this government has been the most transparent and accountable in our history. Over the past 7 years, I have laid before this House 55 statutory reports to fulfill the provision of this law. These include the Petroleum Funds report on the utilization of the African levies as examples. We have also learned key lessons from the helpful feedback from our stakeholders. Most of these formed the core of the macro-critical reforms being implemented under the IMF-backed PCPEC program. Mr. Speaker, as the government's PCPEC program enters the second year, we plan to assess progress and deepen our collaborations for reforms at the PFM Summit to be organized by April 2024. We encourage our development partners to join us on this journey. Mr. Speaker, in the real sector, we expect overall real GDP growth to increase from an expected 2.3% in 2023 to 2.8% and reach 5% in 2027. This yields an average growth rate of 4.3% over the 2024-2027 period. Non-oil real GDP is projected to slow down from an estimated 2.8% in 2023 to 2.1% in 2024 and pick up to 5% by 2027, giving an average growth rate of 4.1% over the 2024-2027 period. Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Ghana has maintained the tight monetary policy stand to firm up the disinflation process. Among other measures, the bank has further raised the monetary policy rate by a cumulative 300 basis points in the year to September 2023 to 30%. In the outlook, monetary policy in 2024 and the medium term will aim to regain price stability. Inflation is expected to remain within the IMF's program's monetary policy clause of 29.4%, with a symmetric band of 4% at the end of 2023, an end-year target of 15% in 2024, and trend further down to the medium-term target band of 8 plus or minus 2% by end December 2025. A tight monetary policy stance, favorable base drifts, relative stability on the foreign exchange market, and a favorable food harvest are expected to outweigh inflationary pressures over the near term. In the outlook, the external sector's performance will largely depend on the conclusion of negotiations with the country's external creditors. Also, the Bank of Ghana's policy thrust will remain focused on increasing external buffers through sustainable means. The exchange rate is expected to remain stable, supported by continued progress with the implementation of the IMF-supported program. Expected inflows from the cocoa syndication loan, the second tranche of the IMF loan, mining inflows, and the BOG's continuation of the Gold for Oil program. The main risks to the external outlook include increasing uncertainty about geopolitical tensions and volatility in commodity prices. Mr. Speaker, the IMF Executive Board approved Ghana's 3-year, $3 billion IMF-supported post-COVID-19 for economic growth on the 17th of May 2023, after the government of Ghana secured a staff-level agreement on the program in December 2022. The program, as you know, aims to restore macro stability and debt sustainability, build resilience through the implementation of wide-ranging and strong structural reforms in key sectors of the economy, and lay the foundations for stronger and more inclusive and private sector-led growth while protecting the poor and the vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, the IMF-supported PCPEC is assessed semi-annually by the IMF through an IMF staff review mission by final approval by the IMF Executive Board. Disbursements under the program are tied to successful completion of each review. The reviews assess our progress towards meeting the quantitative performance criteria, indicative targets, and structural benchmarks. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to inform this august House that based on the IMF's own assessment at the staff level, after the first review, Ghana met all the 6 quantitative performance criteria. The 2 out of the 3 indicative targets, the 2 met a floor on social spending, a floor on non-oil public revenue. The indicative target of 0 net accumulation of payables was extended largely to the ongoing negotiations with energy sector IPP on legacy debt. And 6 of the 7 structural benchmarks due end 2023 were also met, and subsequently the 7th has been met. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal incentives and reliefs I announced previously are in line with government's 5-year growth strategy, which was approved by Cabinet in August 2023. This is to stimulate and sustain economic growth even as we restore macroeconomic stability under the IMF-backed program. The first phase, which is a 14-month program, essentially focuses on scaling up prioritized existing programs and attracting private sector investments to deliver rapid results without significant demands on budgetary resources. Mr. Speaker, the growth strategy prioritizes key sectors of the economy, including agriculture, agribusiness and aquaculture, industry and export promotion, tourism, as well as digitalization and technology. The recently launched Ghana Mutual Prosperity Dialogue will support this path of growth. A permanent steering and technical committee co-led by the Ministries of Finance, as well as Ministry of Trade and Industry and the private sector, and supported by development partners, is being set up to drive this collaboration for growth. Mr. Speaker, last year I discussed the enormous impact of the food import bill on exchange rate volatility and inflation. I made clear how unsustainable the imports are and the need to change course. The growth strategy therefore supports the implementation of interventions that increases our capacity to produce, deepen value chains, facilitate and modernize storage facilities, and increase the shelf line of products. These improvements are expected to help support exports, build forest exchange buffers, and reduce inflation of earmarked funds. Mr. Speaker, we would also like to appreciate on this level the contributions of key stakeholders, including the Managing Director, the management and staff of the IMF, the World Bank, the AFDP, and development partners who played diverse roles in this journey. Mr. Speaker, we are equally grateful to the Council of State, CSOs, labor unions, Employers Association, AGI, FBOs, think tanks and research institutions, and all other stakeholders who played various roles in the process. Let me note, Mr. Speaker, Labour's remarkable composure and historic agreement yesterday to ensure that our discussions with the fund was not derailed. We thank Labour for this. Mr. Speaker, Planting for Food and Jobs 2.0. Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister, just a minute. Honourable members, in line with Order 42 of the standing orders of our House, I hereby direct that sitting be held outside the normal sitting hours. Honourable Minister, you may now continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in seeking to change the course of the agriculture sector, the President in August 2023, with the new Minister of Agriculture, launched the Planting for Food and Jobs 2.0. By design, PFJ 2.0 places greater emphasis on value chain approaches and focuses on strengthening linkages between actors along eligible agricultural commodity value chains, broadly categorized into grains, roots, and tuber vegetables and poultry. The PFJ has a special focus on poultry to address the heavy reliance on imports. Accordingly, 15 anchor farmers and 500 outgrowers in 5 regions, Ashanti, Greater Accra, Bono, East and Eastern regions, will be selected to produce 65,000 metric tons of broilers in 2024. Mr. Speaker, the significant shortfall between demand and domestic production of vegetables requires urgent action, especially considering the impact of the recent supply disruptions from the Sahelian region. The engagement of onion producers and importers prior to this 2024 budget revealed the importance of developing an onion index to track the production. The engagement of onion producers and importers prior to this 2024 budget revealed the importance of developing an onion index to track the production, distribution, and consumption of the commodity. It emerged during these engagements that in 2022, demand for onions was 314,000 metric tons, while the local production was 179,000 metric tons. In addition, the national demand for tomatoes in 2022 was estimated at 1.3 million metric tons, while local production stood at 468,000 metric tons. These are two prominent vegetables in the Ghanaian households. Mr. Speaker, PFG2 therefore seeks to improve the supply and utilization of high-quality inputs, facilitate credit guarantees for aggregators to procure improved seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides, and supply them on zero-interest credit terms to vegetable farmers in the immediate and short-term future. Furthermore, the capacity of existing warehouses will be improved to enhance the condition and capacity in storing bumper harvests and maintaining price stability. Mr. Speaker, the growth strategy also aims to boost fish production, mostly through increased focus on oceanic and inland earthen ponds. The goal is to support fishermen, fish farmers, and fish processors in our coastal regions. The interventions planned in this subsector include direct support for production, distribution, and storage of fish, as well as producing and supplying over 110 million liters of premise fuel using gasoline and condensate. Mr. Speaker, part of PFG2's program strategy is to support the private commercial agriculture under the Economic Enclaves project. Towards this, priority has been given to securing and developing lands to offer security of tenure for large-scale agriculture investments. The focus on large-scale commercial agriculture is to harness the benefits of scale and scope of economies, promote the adoption of technology for efficiency and standardization, as well as support price stabilization efforts. As of December 2022, 3 enclaves in Kasonya, Greater Accra, Kumewu, Ashanti, and Banda Oti region were operational. 5 out of 5 other enclaves are planned in 2024 to promote value addition, integration, and deepening aggregation and value chain systems to serve as economic growth goals. The 3 operational EEPs will lead to production of 160,000 metric tons of rice by end of 2024, over 110,000 acres of land in cultivation for the key staples. Private sector actors investing on EEP will provide employment for the youth with a target of at least 5,000 jobs. Already, Mr. Speaker, 10 private sector actors have responded to the expression of interest to predominantly act as anchor farmers on the developed lands. Government will also pursue the interest expressed by other international private sector operators to unlock investments and technology for the economic enclave projects. We are also using the EEP to leverage catalytic financing from key partners including MasterCard Foundation and the African Development Bank. To implement the economic enclave at scale and speed, as I mentioned, Ghana Cedis 1 billion has been allocated to Millennium Development Authority to complement PFJ 2.0. This funding will be dedicated to providing critical infrastructure including irrigation canals, as well as cleaning and developing land for private sector actors in the EEP. Other key interventions under the Ghana Cares program, such as the completion of a foundry, will benefit from this funding. MEDA has a remarkable record from the implementation of 2 compacts under the Millennium Challenge Corporation, one of which was agriculture and agribusiness. They continue to demonstrate experience and ingenuity that will accelerate the delivery of the growth goals to transform agriculture in our country. Mr. Speaker, the Digital Youth Village as a key initiative under Ghana Cares involves collaboration between the Ministry of Communication and Digitalization, Ministry of Finance, and University of Ghana to support tech entrepreneurs and create vibrant tech hubs. To date, the DYV project has completed the design, land location, site clearance, as well as securing an architect and contractor initiating the construction phase. Phase 1 of DYV project is expected to be completed before end December 2024. Mr. Speaker, in the area of trade, industry and export, the key operations under 1D1F free zones, export promotion, strategic and core industries and business regulatory reforms have been prioritized under the growth strategy. Altogether, earnings from non-traditional exports are expected to increase to 4 billion and 4.8 billion in 2024 from 3.51 billion in 2022. 271 licensed free zone companies are expected to increase earnings to 2.19 billion in 2024 compared to earnings of 1.8 billion from 207 licensed free zone companies in 2022. Mr. Speaker, Ghana remains the preferred tourist destination in the sub-region. The steady stream of domestic and international tourists also requires dedicated spaces in cities to drive a night economy and tourism. As we promote December in Ghana initiative, we'll also work towards enhancing security and enlightening infrastructure. A task force comprising public regulators and private sector actors has already been established to drive the night economy initiative and the public-private partnership arrangements. Mr. Speaker, on 14th November 2022, almost exactly a year ago, government launched the Youth Start initiative as a direct response to the employment challenge facing our country. Through this initiative, government sought to create an entrepreneurial nation by providing training, competitive funding, access to markets and technology to our youth. This is to cause a cultural shift and guide our teaming youth into entrepreneurship by assisting them to start, build and grow their own businesses. Mr. Speaker, a year on, the preparatory works have been completed. The three components of the initiative, Youth Start District, Entrepreneurship Program, Commercial Program, and the Youth Start Grace Program have also been developed and piloted successfully. On 20th September 2022, government signed an MOU with 11 banks and the Ghana Association of Bankers to support entrepreneurs gain access to capital to enhance their business. The Ghana Association of Banks have worked with us to train the participating financial institutions on the program and have completed the design of a technology platform to receive applications. The National Banking College has also been engaged under the program to train beneficiaries on behalf of the participating banks. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Enterprises Agency and the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program has been brought together as a cohesive unit to co-lead the district entrepreneurship component of the Youth Start program. Mr. Speaker, all is set to accelerate the implementation of Youth Start. We are working with our partners, the World Bank, to secure additional financing, Mr. Speaker, of $150 million. On our own, we are committing 200 million Ghana cedis to ensure that more young persons are supported into entrepreneurship. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation, through their strategic partners, has completed the Mineral Resource Estimate Report that has been prepared in line with Joint Ore Reserves Committee standards. The results of the report indicate significant bauxite quantities, making the project a commercially viable one. Mr. Speaker, the master plan has been reviewed and given a seal of approval by KPMG. To ensure, Mr. Speaker, the various mineral discoveries are informed, deposits of iron ore are commercially viable, a high-level mineral resource study has been commissioned by GSDEC, working with the private partners. The capital intensive activity has been uploaded to Ghanaian private partners to produce a standard bankable report at no cost to the government of Ghana. This is to ensure that the integrated iron and steel industry is not faced with a continuous decline of domestic production and processing of metallic minerals and associated dependence on foreign supplies for our needs. Mr. Speaker, key interventions to improve the business environment include enhancing the business regulatory reform, crowding in private sector financing of 20 billion through foreign direct investments, and amendments to the GIPC Act has been completed and submitted to Parliament. The Speaker, the group strategy sets ambitious targets for easing access of the domestic private sector, including medium and long-term finance at competitive rates. Government will leverage the plans of the Development Bank of Fiscal, Venture Capital Trust Fund, and the Ghana Investment Infrastructure Fund to provide loans, partial guarantees, and venture capital to private entities with transformational and strategic projects in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, channels would include the Development Bank of Ghana to increase the lending volume of the Development Bank of Ghana to 2 billion cedis for 2024. For GEZL to provide 350 million partial risk guarantees to leverage private sector participation in the agricultural sector. Government will also support DBG for fundraising of an additional $1 billion in 2024 to support their work. Mr. Speaker, the IFC, working with government, will pursue the 500 million commitment of financing from the World Bank's IFC as a partner in Ghana's Mutual Prosperity Dialogue. The recapitalization of banks. Mr. Speaker, government and the World Bank will recapitalize the banks through the Ghana Financial Stability Fund and the Financial Sector Program, with over 10 billion cedis, Mr. Speaker, to enable aggressive financing of private sector businesses. Mr. Speaker, the banks will be recapitalized in the coming week. Furthermore, venture capital trusts will be given additional funds to ensure that the private sector has access to that. Mr. Speaker, the stock of global debt as a share of global GDP was 258% last year. Moreover, as of 2022, the stock of public debt was 238%, 9 percentage points higher than in 2019. To return Ghana to a path of debt sustainability from a debt to GDP ratio of 89%, Mr. Speaker, we aim to be at 66% this year. The goal is to achieve a 55% debt to GDP ratio and 18% revenue to GDP ratio over the medium term. Mr. Speaker, Ghana completed the first phase of the DDEP in February 2023, where 82 billion cedis of old domestic debts were exchanged for new bonds. In this process, Mr. Speaker, the average coupon of 9.1% were achieved with a participation rate of 84%. Mr. Speaker, we have come to the end of the domestic debt exchange program and need to focus on the external debt restructuring to further improve the debt trajectory. Even today, even more to enable us reach the target landing zone of 55%. Mr. Speaker, discussions with the Eurobond investors are continuing. We have given a broad outline of 20 to 40% haircut under 20 years and interest rates of less than 5%. Ghana bilateral creditors, Mr. Speaker, are also working with us, and we expect the OCC, Mr. Speaker, to come up with a memorandum of understanding which would ensure that this body co-chaired by France and China will deliver the appropriate MOU to the IMF for their board meeting next week. Mr. Speaker, we envision that in the coming week, also extensive discussions of our IPPs should lead to some resolutions on our payments of energy systems. And Mr. Speaker, I'm confident that this will successfully be done in the coming few days or weeks. The fund, Mr. Speaker, is also offering $250 million from the World Bank, supported by sub-fund targeted at qualifying banks and SDIs, and a CD equivalent of $500 million of GOG-funded sub-fund that will help, as I mentioned, to recapitalize the state-owned financial institution, as well as potentially supporting other indigenously controlled financial institutions. In addition, a provision of $4 billion has been made in the 2024 budget to address NIB, distressed SDIs, and other outstanding legacy policies in the financial sector. Notwithstanding the ongoing litigation commenced by shareholders of Black Shield Capital Management Limited, formerly Gold Shield Securities, the SEC will continue to engage the official liquidator and clients of the defined Black Shield to reach a consensus on a framework for a bailout, intervention, and an amicable resolution to the impact. Mr. Speaker, in the 2024 budget, government will build on the significant investment that have been made to date and promote its key interventions covering social spending, infrastructure governance, security, and climate change. Mr. Speaker, on social spending, the government's flagship free senior high school and TVET programs continues to create and expand access to secondary school education in the country. In a generation's time when we have a more educated population which sustains and cohesion, we will appreciate the significance of these decisions. In the year under review, we continue to support, Mr. Speaker, far from this, in the year under review, we continue to support a total of 448,000 first-year senior high school students, bringing the total beneficiaries for 2023 academic year to 1.3 million students. In 2024, the implementation of this transformative initiative will continue. Mr. Speaker, we continue feeding grants for over 7,500 students in special schools and capitation grants to all public basic schools across the country. Additionally, registration fees of over 471,000 prospective candidates from public junior high school for the BECE were paid to guarantee that all candidates will sit for the examination. Mr. Speaker, support for beneficiaries of the LEAP program was sustained in 2023. Government invested some $298 million to support 350,000 families. In 2024, the program will improve financing by 50% more and continue to provide meals to more schools to enhance basic school enrollment. The National Health Insurance Scheme, Mr. Speaker, is now active with coverage of 60 million people, representing 80% of the targeted group. Efforts to integrate the Ghana card into the enrollment system are progressing. Mr. Speaker, over 740 million has been invested to feed over 3.8 million pupils, one hot meal a day, in 10,000 of our public basic schools. In 2024, the program will continue to provide meals to enhance basic school enrollment. Mr. Speaker, we continue to improve on our road networks, and Mr. Speaker, once the official accreditor committee has made its announcement, we will continue with all extendedly funded projects that will be resumed. However, the overflowing projects are ongoing and at various stages of completion. Kumasi Lake Road and Drainage Extension Project is completed. Reconstruction of Bichem Techimanchia Akumadin Road is 71% complete. Construction of flyover on the Accra Tema motorway from Flab Port Runabout is 60% complete. Phase 2 of the Tema Motorway Runabout, including construction of the third tier of the interchange, is 56% complete. Construction of 4 major bypasses at Osino, Enyinem, Enyirisi, and Konongo along the Accra-Kumasi Highway commenced in 2023 and are various stages of completion. Reconstruction of Agona and Kwanta-Tapa Road is 44% complete. Dualization of 4 main roads and traffic management works 100% complete. Selected roads in 2nd and Takoradi Phase 1 is 28% complete. Dualization of Nsawam of Franco Road, including the widening of the road to 10 lanes over 6-lane expressway and 4-lane service road interchanges at Amasaman, Kobiman, Midyear, and Nsawam project is 30% complete. Construction of 4-tier interchange at Swame in the Ashanti region has commenced. Mr. Speaker, the following projects under the Master Project Agreement with Sino Hydro Corporation has been completed. Tamale Interchange, Western Region and Corpus Inner City Roads, construction of Hohoi, Jasikan, Dodi, Pepesi, 64.4 kilometers, upgrading of selected feeder roads in Ashanti and Western Region. However, the following are at various stages of completion. Sunyani Inner City Roads, construction of Sunyani and Brekum Inner City Roads, PTC Runabout Interchange, Takoradi, 80%. Mr. Speaker, government is in the preparation for the reconstruction of the Accra-Tema Motorway under the road sector's public-private partnership with GIF is on course. The concession agreement and draft engineering, procurement and construction EPC agreement have been approved by Cabinet and will be submitted to Parliament for approval shortly. Mr. Speaker, government infrastructure program will also be anchored on a strong private sector collaboration. To this end, government will continue to pursue the mining sector roads rehabilitation projects to improve the road network in mining communities. Government will begin the formalization of agreements with the mining companies and mining-related industries to fund and commence the rehab of roads in the mining enclaves in 2024. Selected communities include Takoradi, Agona and Kwanta, Takoradi Dualization and Township, Presia, Bogoso Township, Dunkwa, Obuasi Township, Ashia and Kwanta, Manso, Nkran, Konongo. Mr. Speaker, to promote trade and transit from the Tema port, the capacity of Tema Hospital Road will be improved under PPP arrangements. Accordingly, government has developed a deed of transfer to be executed. Mr. Speaker, government has renegotiated the contract terms of the large general hospital project and will now be funded through the national budget. The contractor is expected, Mr. Speaker, to be back on site next week to complete a significant amount of work by 2024. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with government's strong commitment to industrialization, a total of 169 One District, One Factory projects are currently operational, leading to a total employment of 169,000. An additional 152 factories are currently under construction and expected to be fully operational in 2024. These industries are expected to increase value addition and support our efforts to reset the economy. Mr. Speaker, to improve connectivity within the sub-region and facilitate tourism, the upgrading of the Tamale Airport has been completed. To complement this effort and facilitate trade through Ghana's transit corridor of the Buankra Integrated logistical terminal is being executed and is about 54% complete. Following the approval of Ghana's Energy Transition Investment Plan, government has commenced the development of a national electric vehicle policy as part of efforts to create an enabling environment for the uptake of electric vehicles. Mr. Speaker, government has rolled out the National Rental Assistance Scheme in February 2023 to ease the burden of huge rent advance payments by prospective tenants. Mr. Speaker, government continued works on phase 3 of the Security Services Housing Program involving the construction of 320 units for the Ghana Police Service at the Ghana National Police Training School, Tesano. In addition, work commenced on the first phase of the revised National Affordable Housing Program at Pokwase that was launched by His Excellency the President and the Minister of Works and Housing. Government will commence work on the National Affordable Housing Project at the Deso in the Ashanti region to complement the Pokwase project. Mr. Speaker, under the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program, government continues to embark on strategic investments across our communities nationwide in line with the Fiscal Consolidation Plan. Through the development authorities, over 340 projects were completed in 2023 and accordingly handed over to the beneficiary communities. Rural telephony. Mr. Speaker, government constructed of 1,010 rural telephony sites under the Rural Telephony and Digital Inclusion Project to provide voice signals in underserved and unserved communities. In 2024, the remaining 1,006 sites will be built and integrated and financed for voice and data services to ensure reliable, affordable, and secured broadband infrastructure under the infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, with regards to rural electrification, in line with government to achieve universal access to electricity by 2024, a total of 189 communities have been connected to the national grid, with 211 communities at various stages of completion. The national electricity access is estimated to have reached 88.85% as of the third quarter of 2023. Our goal, of course, is to exceed 90% by the end of 2024. Mr. Speaker, under the Girls in ICT initiative, 2,000 girls and 200 ICT teachers in the Savannah and Northern regions were trained. Additionally, a total of 287 laptops were presented to the best performing students and teachers in both the Savannah and Northern regions. In 2024, 3,000 girls and 300 ICT teachers will be trained in Ashanti, Greater Accra and Walter regions. Government, Mr. Speaker, seeks to continue to find a program to resource the one laptop per child program so that the population will become tech savvy. Mr. Speaker, we will look to raise appropriate financing for this. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana.gov platform deployed in 2020 onboarded 1541 MDAs, MMD. 130 of these entities actively utilizing platform for various functions, including processing payments. This has yielded a total of 164 billion since its inception. In 2024, NITA will enroll government agencies responsible for revenue collection onto the platform. In addition, a citizens app will be integrated into the platform to enrich citizens to government engagement and allow persons with disability to address the platform to foster inclusiveness. Mr. Speaker, the new Conduct of Public Officers Act seeks to address current weakness in asset declaration system. The new act will introduce provisions that ensure public officers submit their declaration in time and that an effective verification system is in place. The draft bill is under consideration by Cabinet and will be submitted to Parliament subsequently. Government will also committed to ensuring the implementation of the second phase of the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan to foster public accountability and transparency. Mr. Speaker, government will continue to resource the Ghana Armed Forces to collaborate with other security services in the operations such as Cow Leg, Calm Life, Halt, Gong Gong, Conquered Fit, etc. Mr. Speaker, the establishment of 15 forward operating bases along the northern border of the country to also prevent cross-border crimes and terrorist infiltration are also progressing steadily. In addition, the FOB at its level in the Western region is 55%. Mr. Speaker, internal security by the Ghana Police Force continues to be sustained, and Mr. Speaker, the police service improved community watch program for professional motorbike riders has elevated the sense of security in the country. The service received 100 Toyota Hilux pickups, 6 armored personnel carriers, and 600 motorbikes to augment the fleet of the formed police visibility and motorbike patrol units to enhance their work. Mr. Speaker, immigration service is also being improved. The service also conducted 5,900 inspections at various locations and bringing much security to the country. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of independent power producers, government has continued to engage key operational independent power producers in positive and constructive bilateral negotiations. Engagements have centered on the sustainability of Ghana's energy sector, as well as the restructuring of legacy IPPs and power purchase agreements, future-proofing timely payment to IPPs going forward, and the implementation of critically needed energy sector reforms. Government aims, Mr. Speaker, to finalize commercial agreements with key IPPs in the coming weeks. Mr. Speaker, government remains mindful and appreciative of the continuing commitment on the part of IPPs not only to support Ghana's power sector, but to collaborate with government and the ECG to achieve sustainable future for the sector while shoring up Ghana's reputation as a compelling investment climate. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has been at the forefront for advocacy for a fit-for-climate global financial architecture while expanding its engagement to mobilize climate financing. At the 2023 IMF World Bank Group annual meetings, Ghana secured critical financing to support climate adaptation and mitigation measures. These include $54 million to establish a Ghana Share Landscape Emission Reduction Project, $4.8 million successfully earned by reducing nearly 1 million tons of carbon emissions through forestry conservation. We expect to earn over $45 million in 2024. Additionally, government has signed 6 MOUs with Switzerland, Singapore, Sweden, South Korea, as well as some public and private entities in line of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Mr. Speaker, our leadership as chair of the Climate Vulnerable Forum and the Vulnerable 20 Group is a prime example directed by our Ministers of Finance, Environment, Science and Technology, and Innovation, and Foreign Affairs. Under Ghana's tenure, we've not only raised our global standing in climate discussions, but also championed the interests of climate vulnerable nations. Our President Nana Addo Dankwa Kufour chairs the CVF. Since 2021, under the direction of Ghana's direction, the CVF and V20 have driven a forward-thinking agenda to counter climate change threats. Crucially, Ghana has been instrumental in pushing for reforms in the global financial system to make a government for resilient growth and sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, advocating for reform the global financial system underscores our commitment to focus on a future where climate resilient growth and sustainable development are at the forefront. By championing this, Ghana will lead with a vision for climate resilience in a more environmentally imperative way. It is a pathway to enduring prosperity and stability for developing countries globally, ensuring that we are equipped to face climate challenges while progressing towards a sustainable and prosperous future. Mr. Speaker, today I have highlighted our collective achievements as a nation to this august House. I've also demonstrated how our investment over the last 7 years have positively impacted individuals, households, businesses and communities. We have, Mr. Speaker, a safer country. We have a more physically and digitally connected society. We have a more educated and skilled population. Through our policy approach, the foundation for a country has been laid where ingenuity being encouraged, innovation is supported, public service is valued, responsibility is shared, prosperity is shared, and accountability for the custodianship of public resources is prioritized. Mr. Speaker, this is marked change from when I first stood before this House on 2nd March 2017. At that time, Mr. Speaker, doomsday had decimated the incomes of businesses and households. The financial sector was weak and near collapse. Trained nurses had stayed home for years without employment. NHIS was in arrears for over a year. A sizable number of Ghanaians unable to access senior high school education. Above all, our economic prospects are deemed considerable. I refer then to the biblical story of 5 loaves and 2 fishes to illustrate the approach in turning the economy around. Mr. Speaker, I stood here in March 27 and asked that the country's poultry, 2 fishes and 5 loaves be multiplied. Indeed, as a young boy gave all he had to the multitudes, so have we. And the Lord, in response, has blessed our nation, and this we should not forget. From a nominal GDP, Mr. Speaker, of 262 billion in 2017 to 1 trillion in 2014. Invested in the future of our children under the free SHS program, with 1.2 million students having access to free secondary school education. We supported the poor and vulnerable through an enhanced LEAP program by increasing the number of beneficiary households from 212,000 in 2017 to 350,000 in 2023, with an aim of 450,000 in the medium term. We invested in provisioning 1 hot nutrition meal per day to 3.2 million pupils in our basic schools and provided steady income stream for 32,496 caterers. We invested the most in the construction, rehabilitation, and upgrading of major roads network across the country. We supported small businesses with 750 million during the COVID-19 pandemic through the CAPBAS program and other interventions. We invested, Mr. Speaker, in making sure that all public workers were paid every month during the COVID-19 pandemic, including the teachers who were paid for all the 9 months when the academic calendar was disrupted. We invested to strategically establish 160 factories across the districts under 1D1F, investing in the expansion of health infrastructure in every district under the Agenda 111 initiative. The greatest healthcare push in the history, to thank the leadership of organized labor for their positive cooperation since 2017. Yesterday, as I mentioned, 14th November 2023, we successfully concluded negotiations for the 2024 single spine salary structure, the PACE pay, which culminated in a 23% increase in the base pay of the single spine salary structure across board from January to June 2024, and a readjustment of an additional 2% to 25% from July 2024 to December 2024. This wouldn't have been possible without the cooperation and strong leadership of labor unions. We thank you. Since then, we have stayed focused on our plans. However, it is not smooth sailing. There have been ebbs and flows. We have faced severe headwinds since March 2022 as an economy. The economy has faced multiple shocks. We have not created enough jobs and food inflation remains high, creating hardships, and we are committed to tackling this. However, we are re-anchoring our path using the PCPEG as our compass, our true north. Mr. Speaker, backed by the PCPEG, the 2023 budget seeks to restore and sustain stability. With hard work and the grace of God, we are on the path of stability and growth. Thankfully, a sense of a new beginning has taken hold. Despite our remarkable progress in the last 10 months, risks still abound. In October 2023, the IMF reported that global recovery remains low with little margin for error. The Kenyan Finance Minister also noted in September 2023, and I quote, "All low and middle income countries are walking a tightrope given the current economic constraints globally." Mr. Speaker, we are aware of these pressures and risks. So far, the implementation of government PCPEG, which addresses these pressures, is delivering the immediate intended results. We have successfully concluded the domestic debt operations and are making steady progress on external debt restructuring. We are implementing the new growth strategy, which prioritizes the completion of key transformative interventions to improve the quality of life and welfare of our people. Mr. Speaker, for our future, large public spending and deficits cannot remain embedded in our public policy program. So after achieving macroeconomic stability, the gains will be anchored on enhanced fiscal responsibility rules. The IMF is already working with us to strengthen these rules in order to maintain macroeconomic stability and implement structural reforms needed to sustain the country on a strong path of economic growth and transformation. Mr. Speaker, to achieve the 2024 budget has been developed to ensure the accelerated implementation of the PCPEG program, to expand investment in the rail sector, to implement the need to consolidate and complete the ongoing infrastructural work, and to mobilize climate finance to enable us to build resilience. The policy outlines in this budget will also ensure that Ghana remains attractive for domestic and foreign investment. The feedback from our extensive engagement with key stakeholders have also been included in our policy choices. Mr. Speaker, more importantly, the various components of the government-owned financial ecosystem, such as Development Bank of Ghana, GCB, CBG, GESTEL, Ghana Commodity Exchange, GIFT, Venture Capital, Trust Fund, GEA, will all be strengthened to enable us to address the concerns of the private sector in respect of access to credit, access to skills, labor, and raw materials. Mr. Speaker, we do this knowing that the key to our prosperity is not handing out free goods and services to our underprivileged folks, rather it is by providing skills and financing to enable people to generate income and jobs. Mr. Speaker, we continue to optimize our tourism infrastructure. The improvements in key tourist sites have been complemented by aggressive marketing to reposition Ghana. Next month, as in recent years, our country will expect to an increase in tourists seeking to patronize the December in Ghana event. Our investment in CCTVs and our roads and provisions of increased logistics for the security services will continue to support these events and make them memorable. These investments would also facilitate the hosting of the 13th All-Africa Games in Accra from 8th to 23rd March 2024 put Ghana in the spotlight. In addition, Ghana has strategically positioned itself to mobilize climate financing and champion a fit-for-climate global architecture. Mr. Speaker, we also are creating a new financing division at the ministry to ensure that we stay ahead of the game. Mr. Speaker, a new and exciting opportunity is Ghana's newfound wealth in lithium and graphite, which will be extracted in line with the green minerals policy to support our energy transition. Mr. Speaker, the Minerals Income Investment Fund has acquired a 6% contributing interest in Atlantic Lithium's Ghana portfolio. This will lead us to a new negotiating posture for all future extractive industry investments. Mr. Speaker, in line with Ghana's localization policy, Atlantic Lithium will list on the Ghana Stock Exchange to further enhance and deepen local participation. Mr. Speaker, we are in a better place than we were before. The nation has been positively impacted and positioned to harness its prospects. We must move forward courageously, for as 2 Timothy 1 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but, Mr. Speaker, a spirit of courage and of love and of a sound mind, and we must press on. It is in this same vein, Mr. Speaker, of courage and power that we have forged a resilience since 2017. It's important to recall that despite, Mr. Speaker, the poly-crisis of 2019, the poly-crisis in 2020, we have together taken, Mr. Speaker, all of us, a GDP of 219 billion to 1 trillion GDP this year. A key lesson from this leap since 2017 is for us, Mr. Speaker, to eschew unfounded pessimism and nihilism. We have shown, Mr. Speaker, that it is possible. It is possible to triple, to quadruple our GDP. It is possible to create a technologically savvy environment. It is possible to be the investment hub of the region. We should therefore, Mr. Speaker, be collectively proud of ourselves and the can-do spirit of our people. We have proven that a lot more is possible if we stay the course and believe in a future of immense possibilities. To realize our common aspiration, Mr. Speaker, we must continue to speak one language. This is Ghana, a nation united in diversity, a resilient nation on the path to manifest destiny. Every opportunity to safeguard our progress must be protected by adherence to exhortations of Genesis 11:6, that if we speak one language, we can do the impossible. Mr. Speaker, we therefore present to you the Inkunim Victory Budget, a people with a manifest destiny for greatness. We are resilient and we shall prevail because, Mr. Speaker, as we have always said, the battle is indeed the Lord's. God bless our homeland Ghana and make us steadfast to build together a nation that is great and strong in unity. Mr. Speaker, so I move.
Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, please, we have given more than enough time for the chair leaders. So please, it's not, I just allowed a few minutes because it's been quite stressful for sitting for over 2 hours. And so, as your father, I decided to allow you a few minutes. But please, it's now time for us to conclude officially the presentation of the 2024 budget. Honorable members, in accordance with Standing Order 143, debate on the motion shall stand adjourned for not less than 3 days. But as you know, tomorrow we'll be here to continue with business. The same for Friday, and over the weekend we will have the post-budget workshop here in Parliament, Presence of Parliament. Honorable members, I also direct that part of the budget relating to the ministries and constitutional bodies shall stand committed respectively to the committees responsible for the subject matter to which the heads of the estimates relate for consideration and report in accordance with Order 144. Furthermore, any part of the budget relating to revenue and expenditure shall stand committed to the Finance Committee in accordance with Order 145. Before I come to leadership, it's important on your behalf for me to acknowledge the presence of some critical stakeholders in what we do here. We have a plethora of representatives of the public who are here to support us, to listen, and to see what we do here during budget days. Definitely, you expect that the minister will come with his technical directors, and they are here in their numbers. We also have the office of His Excellency the President heavily present with the senior minister I understand your excitement because the time he was on the floor here, many of you were not born. So I know his value and I acknowledge his presence. The Chief of Staff herself is present here, and honorable members, we have a very, very important group, partners in the development of democracy. We have with us here a large team of students from the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. We have a total of 19 students and 5 academic staff. These students are drawn from the following countries: 13 from the Ghana Armed Forces, 6 from allied African countries, Benin, Botswana, Nigeria, Malawi, and Sierra Leone. The leader of the delegation is Colonel Michael Injum. Colonel Michael Injum. We have the academic staff, directing staff, in the persons of Lieutenant Colonel Wabani. Lieutenant Colonel Wabani is from South Africa. And we also have Wing Commander Seth Ampao from Ghana, and His Excellency Ambassador A. Sachu, also from Ghana. Please, you are welcome. We're grateful you find time to come and support us. You've seen the laborious work we do here, particularly for the minister to stand over 2 hours. I tell you, if you had read all the statement, it would have taken over 3 hours. But he was able to skip, professionally through some of the paragraphs and give us a summation of what is contained in the budget. So you need to read the totality of the budget to actually get the full import of the message that he just delivered. Once again, we thank you for coming. Yes, it's a pleasure to always have you, and I want to encourage many more to come and visit us and see how we are practicing open the governance program that we signed to. I've just been informed that the national chairman of the New Patriotic Party is also present here. Honorable members, let's now be guided by the leadership of the House, whether there's anything more for us to do. We start with the minority leader.
Mr. Speaker, let me say that this particular budget is the true definition of an empty budget. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, the NPP government has said bye-bye to the people of Ghana. this budget is insensitive and out of touch. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Minister, you and members of the economic management team, led by our Vice President, you are leaving behind a bankrupt economy.
Honorable Minority Leader, address the chair.
Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to note that this government is leaving behind a bankrupt economy. This government is leaving behind a default economy, or in other words, yentia economy. Mr. Speaker, this government is leaving behind a budget that is debt-riddled. It's leaving behind an economy that is overtaxed. You are leaving behind an economy that is seeing hyperinflation. You are leaving behind an economy that is seeing high food inflation. And you are leaving behind an economy that is seeing high monetary policy rates. As if that is not enough, Mr. Speaker, this government is leaving behind an economy with high lending rates. You are again leaving behind an economy with high unemployment rates. Mr. Speaker, as if again that is not enough, you are leaving behind a misery index that has never been witnessed in this Fourth Republic. In fact, you are leaving behind a misery economy. In other words, a witchery economy. Mr. Speaker, to conclude on this matter, let me say that they are also leaving behind an economy where we are seeing massive and uncontrolled corruption according to the Fiscal conference. Mr. Speaker, this is the scorecard of this government. This is the legacy they are leaving behind. And so most importantly, I'm not surprised that today, you are here reading the budget alone. Where is the governor of the Bank of Ghana? Nowhere. Where is the Vice President? Nowhere. But let me say, they cannot abandon you. You did this with them. And so, they are the faces of destruction, and you are part of it. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Mr. Minister. Bye-bye, MPP. Then this is your scorecard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, it's the turn of the Majority Leader. Majority Leader. Honorable members, please, the Deputy Majority Leader has agreed to rather make the submissions.
Mr. Speaker,
Please, let me. The Standing Orders Committee is here to meet, so time is of essence. and we need to adjourn the sitting and go for the committee meeting. Please allow the Deputy Majority Leader to have a bite. It's a response to what you have said.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, we on this side heard you loud and clear. And relying on Order 143, quote, whenever a motion that this House approves the financial policy of government for the year is moved by the minister responsible for finance, the debate on it shall stand adjourned for not less than 3 days. Mr. Speaker, we are more than ready. And although the minority leader knew about this, he decided to do what he wanted to do for whatever purpose he so desired. But Mr. Speaker, this is the man, Dr. Kufour, who was a deputy. Mr. Speaker, this is the same Dr. Kufour,
Deputy Majority Leader. Just to honorable members, please. The reference to this is a man is an honorable colleague. So please refer to him as that, not this is a man.
The honorable minority leader is the same honorable member of parliament who was a deputy minister of finance when the economy was in its worst state. Mr. Speaker, this is the same Dr. Kufour who was a deputy finance minister who even without COVID could not, with his boss, the finance minister, and their government, implement the 3 SHS. This is the same Dr. Kufour. Mr. Speaker, if today this government has implemented 3 SHS successfully, and Mr. Speaker, today the figures bear us out. We have a transition enrollment rate of over 80% as compared to the 55% earlier era. And today, because of the liberties of opposition, you are telling the honorable finance minister that he has underperformed when your own administration had the worst performance out of us. Let me assure you that the figures cannot be toyed with. Dr. Kufour, let me remind you that your government could not implement a single landing beach project. You came into this house with a loan. You chickened out and you came to do capping. This government has successfully heard the cries of the fishermen, and we have constructed 12 landing beach sites. You come from the central region. You've not been able to do that for the people of central region. And you are telling him that he has underperformed. Hey, at all. Hey, Dr. Kufour. Hey, at all. Are you saying that you as a deputy finance minister, you did better than Kufour? Is that what you are saying? Mr. Speaker, it's the same NDC with its old us that this economy is in its worst state. It was worse with all that we've experienced under COVID, with all that we've experienced on the global space. We have managed to keep the lights on. We inherited Kumso under you. We inherited a situation where children could not go to secondary schools. And Mr. Speaker, we are ready for you today, tomorrow, any other day. Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much indeed.
Honorable members, the tone has been set. Clearly, I now have my task set out for me, and I am going to apply and enforce our rules vigorously. So when you go read Order in the House, Part 15 of the Standing Orders, I am going to apply them to the letter. I am not going to do any showdown. Honorable members, you are aware, you all know it, that showdown is my friend. May I now, honorable members, according to our rules, adjourn the House till Thursday, 16th November 2023 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. The House, Honorable, you want us to be, yes, because of the distance, 1 p.m. instead of 10, we will commence proceedings at 1 p.m. on Thursday, the 16th of November. Honorable members, the House is accordingly adjourned.